Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk TriState with Tiny and Katie.
Welcome to Let's Talk TriState, all powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice, winner in the 2024 Best of the TriState Awards. We have a guest today that I did not know that he nor his position, nor the institute where he works exists. And I'm ashamed to say that because I grew up in Hagerstown my entire life. I'm from this area. Now, I grew up knowing Conococheague, how to spell Conococheague. What I did not know is the Conococheague Institute exists in Mercersburg. And today, we're honored to have Matthew Webb. He is the executive director of the Conococheague Institute. Matthew, good to have you today.
Pleasure, Tiny. Cheers.
First of all, you'll notice Matthew's accent. Is this Wales or?
I'm from southern England.
Okay.
Our farmstead was settled by Welsh settlers.
Yeah.
I've also lived here now for about 16 years. Mm-hmm. So it's a southern England by way of Maryland, by way of Pennsylvania. My parents think I sound American at this point.
There you go. Okay, well, we're glad to have you both in country, and I'm sure you've already gotten your welcome, but here we go. Welcome to Let's Talk TriState. So I have, and I'm going to try to make sure that some of this, you're able to see this in the video. This is right up my alley. This speaks to my soul, things that I love to see. I watch a ton of YouTube, and I watch it for, I think most people do, various reasons, whether it's building or whether, one of my favorite things to watch are people who live off grid. Mm-hmm. Now, personally, I have no desire to do that, but I love watching people do it. I love the process and how they are willing to risk it, and they do. But there's a channel that I watch, and I cannot think of the name of it, but it's this couple that they live in this little cabin, mm-hmm. and they do everything the way that it was done back in colonial times. And it is the most amazing thing to watch. And I love how they'll say, here's a tradition, here's what a Christmas dinner was, and here's what, so, you know, we obviously have these ideas of what our Christmas dinners are and holiday feasts and things of that nature, but they're boiling just potatoes and, leeks or something like that. But Matthew, before we dive into all things Conococheague Institute, take us through your history, how you wound up. You already told us you've been here for 16 years, and then how you got involved with the Conococheague Institute.
Okay, that's a deep one. So yes, I'm a British citizen. After college, I worked at a 12th century castle, which isn't as impressive as it sounds. Castles are 10 a penny in England. Mm-hmm. So after college, you work at a castle. It's like working at Sheets.
Okay, gotcha.
So I worked there. I learned about historic tourism. I very much enjoyed it as a career. My wife, Brittany Wade, is American, and she was studying abroad, and we got pulled back over here for a health treatment. And there are no 12th century castles in the tri-state, unfortunately. So I had to apply for other work. Mm-hmm. So I ended up working at Fort Frederick State Park in Maryland, which is an 18th century fort centered around the French-Indian War. And I worked there for more than 10 years. 10 years of immersive 18th century living history. Like you said, cooking, doing the tasks of the 18th century, dressing in the clothes, having the technology, and doing that every day made me learn to love it, for one, and maybe also want to expand my knowledge away from just the fort. At that time, I was also a park ranger, so I learned about how to manage parks and recreations and trails and such. And then about 4.5 years ago, I heard about this job opening at the Conococheague Institute, a place that I had never heard of either. And I said, I know 18th century, and CI's mission is to preserve 18th century frontier life. I know how to talk about tourism. I had no management experience and zero fundraising experience, but they took a chance on me, hired me. I stepped up quickly from manager to executive director. And in that 4.5 years at CI, we've raised over $2 million, received 6 awards, both county and state level, and now we're doing an award-winning program for about 6,000 students per year in the tri-state.
That is absolutely incredible. I love hearing that. I wish that my schools would have known about this when I was... Well, first of all, how long has the Institute been around?
Last year was our 30th anniversary.
Oh, okay. Well, then it wouldn't have... We did go to Fort Frederick when I was a kid. And this is one of those things where I would have loved for this to have been available when I was a child. But having seen all that I've seen, it's so nice now that it's available as an adult, and I can come and see and partake in what you guys have. So, Matthew, take us through what you're doing today, what you're doing in this season at the Conococheague Institute. Well, you know what? Before we do that, what is the Conococheague Institute in its purest form?
That is the million-dollar question. So we are a hands-on regional learning center located just outside of Mercersburg. A 30-acre site. We're a museum, but we're an outdoor museum. Mm-hmm. We're a living history museum where we every weekend recreate the crafts and the food and the culture of the time. So living history museum is the simplest way to boil it down. But in that 30 acres, we have nature trails, you have wetlands areas, environmental parts, although our stewardship is important as well.
And then what do you do? So when you say it's not just like the house or the cabin, as it were, when you have the nature trails, that you're also, I'm assuming, showing how people would gather their food and grow their crops?
We as much as possible, we do try and do examples of sustenance living. If I got transported back in time tomorrow, I would die.
Okay.
But I could at least talk about it before I die. Like, this is how people would garden. So yes, we have a 4-square garden. We have a large amount of produce and medicinal herbs from the 18th century. We have a field plot. And we try and do garden to table, especially with our cooking programs.
Okay.
So sure, we could go to the supermarket and buy some fresh leeks and some fresh potatoes. But if we have some disgusting things that we've grown in the garden and it may not be store perfect, it's a better example of what people are cooking at the time. In January, we dug up Jerusalem artichoke, which is a wild sunflower. You can eat its tuber, and it tastes exactly like a boiled potato.
Wow.
It looked absolutely terrible.
Okay.
And it didn't smell great, but it tastes like a potato. And the lesson there is, when you have to survive on not perfect stuff, we can. And people have had for generations.
Right.
Just today, we like the pretty stuff.
Yeah, of course. We can go to Walmart and Aldi and get what we need. But these folks had, they lived like they lived, and they lived. So I know that you have programs that run every Saturday. And you're in the winter season now, obviously, aren't we all? So what happens around this time of year now at the Conococheague Institute?
So winter actually is one of our busier times for the Saturday programs, and that's because so many museums are closed during winter. A couple of years ago, I made the executive decision that we'd be open year-round every Saturday for free for the community. And part of it was so we wouldn't have to have different times posted on our website and our leaflets, but also it's so we can show people the true range of history. If you only ever visit historic sites in summer, you see people wearing summer clothes, you see them having summer food, and you don't learn what it's like in the winter. So if you come this weekend or next weekend or any weekend in the winter, the cabin will have a fire and a half. We'll be doing cooking. We've been doing a lot of game hens recently, roasted chickens over the fire because it's cold.
Sure.
Also winter stews using tubers and things that have been in a root cellar. And so you can visit and just see what people live like and experience it. Draw water from the well yourself. Learn how to start a fire. That's every single Saturday, even throughout the winter. And over the last few weeks, we've seen visitors from Rockville. Just last weekend, we had visitors from Ithaca, New York.
Wow.
Because, again, there's not much to do in the winter. Everywhere's closed. So people are searching and come to us.
I'm sure that you have researched this. I have not. But do you find that you are an exception and not the rule as far as everything that you offer, not just the being available in the winter, in the off-season, so to speak? But are there other places like this around in quantity?
There are loads and loads of living history sites across the country, some very large. Think of Colonial Williamsburg. Think of Jamestown, Old Sturbridge Village. There are lots of small organizations like us that don't have the opportunity or the funding to be open as much. They might be open once on a blue moon or the every second Thursday when Mavis is available. So we are unique in being a small rural location that does have such accessible hours and programs. And one way we are unique, I believe, is the way we've targeted the youth generation.
Okay.
4.5 years ago, we had maybe 2 bookings a year of school kids. And now we have 6,000. We're fully booked. And that reason that's happened is because we've made history engaging and fun. You mentioned how YouTube videos are why you kind of branch out into different spheres. And we have so many students come to us say, I've been watching blacksmithing videos on YouTube. I want to learn how this works. I love I like building in Minecraft. I want to see how it's like in real life.
Right.
And cooking tutorials and clothing tutorials online and even makeup tutorials are a big fad. And so we have a lot of our students who come to us because they can see it for real. We actually have a cool video on our YouTube from last year of how to dress your hair in the 18th century for women.
Yeah.
And it was literally using an 18th century manual on hairdressing, demonstrating it on one of our staff members, and now it's a video.
Wow.
We have similar ones on cider making, how to stomp grapes to fresh wine. So even if you can't visit because you're not available on some Saturday and you've missed a great program, for those peak programs, we try and record them because that way, a year from now, you'll be scrolling and you'll be like, oh, harvest time. Let's have a look.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Now, when it comes time for a Saturday and you show up to work, as it were, Do you yourself, I know you put on all the regalia, all the outfits, but do you find yourself transforming back into that time? It's almost like you teleport back in history.
Yeah, so I ever since I worked at Fort Frederick, I was a big fan of immersion experiences. If I start a fire using a lighter and then pulled out a McDonald's for my lunch, I cannot properly say to the visitor, I'm living history. So I am starting a fire with flint and steel. I am peeling my vegetables. I am doing things from a period recipe. And at CI, I've instilled that in my staff and volunteers as well. And so yes, it does help you step back. Mm-hmm. If you're struggling to start a fire because it's windy out or it's humid, you're feeling the same stresses that people would have in history. Mm-hmm. In some journals of farmers nearby from the region, you see the frustration. Like June, did sow turnips. And then 2 weeks later, turnips didn't take, did sow turnips again. And so when we're gardening, yeah, we make mistakes. Mm-hmm. But so did the people in the 18th century. So did those settlers. So that helps with the immersion that not everyone was a perfect homesteader from the scratch.
Now take us through when someone shows up mm-hmm. to the Conococheague Institute, let's say they're going to join you this Saturday. Mm-hmm. They step onto the property. Make a video in our mind of what it is that we're going to see. Are we going to, obviously get out of the car, walk up to the visitor center or whatever. But then are we going to go to different stations? Are we just going to get to walk around free roam and see people doing things and they'll turn and talk to us? How's that work?
So our new programming for 2025, sponsored by the Americana Corner Preserving America grant, is Revolutionary Homestead. What that focus is down in the homestead, our cabin, our tavern, our garden, our field, and our new animal plot. In that area, there are living historians just living life. So it changes every week. So that one week we might be sowing seeds, another week we might be brewing beer. But the point is you step into that homestead and you've stepped into a story, and our interpreters are third person, so we're not, oh, what sayeth you arrive on your chariot today? Mm-hmm. It's just, right, I'm sowing turnips like they would in 1775 and talk about the context. What's important is in that visitorship, you start at the visitor center where we have normal exhibits, gift shop and amenities, but also you get context. There is nothing more confusing for someone that's never seen living history to just see someone's historic clothes and expect to know the whole story. Mm-hmm. So stop in the visitor center first. One of our staff members, perhaps even myself, will say, here is why the Conococheague Institute exists. Here is our history. Here's the broader context. And then tell you, what are you going to see today? Today, you're in luck. Someone recently brought a haunch of venison, so we're roasting a deer over a fire. Or today we're singing songs and playing music. So it varies from Saturday to Saturday, but that context is super important.
Yeah.
And hopefully by the end of it, you're doing some of it. So you've gone around and you've actually helped in the garden. If it's later in the season, you've helped bring in some of the harvest and you're going home with a bag full of turnips and radishes.
That's great.
Yeah.
This is just right up my alley. I love hearing about this. Now, is there a cost? How are you funded? Take us through all of that.
So we are a 501c3 nonprofit. So we are able to do our programs thanks to the community. So we have generous sponsorships, memberships, donations, and grants. I mentioned the Revolutionary Homestead programming. This free programming is sponsored by Americana Corner. They're doing a 5-year initiative with us for $125,000. Our winter programming from the end of last year to the end of winter in March is sponsored by Martin's Famous Potato Roll. Okay. And so we have these title sponsorships that allow us to offer these programs for free. And that's another thing that makes us unique. It's all about accessibility. So come any Saturday throughout the year and you will not have to spend a penny. Of course, you might want to. You might want to become a member. You might want to make a donation. You might want to leave a legacy gift and drop off $1 million, knowing that we'll be stewards of that money and make more programming to achieve our mission to preserve the history of the frontier.
When you and I first met today, prior to recording, you said that you were really excited about the goats.
Yes.
So we go from all that we've just talked about to here. What brings us to goats? What's happening with goats at the Conococheague Institute?
So, as I said, the last couple of years, we've massively grown, and people can step onto the homestead and say, here's how they gardened, here's how they cooked, here's how they had fun and played games. But there has not been animals at the Conococheague Institute. Oh. And we cannot call ourselves a farmstead without animals. So last year, we'd had a strategic plan to somehow think of a way to get animals onto the site. And through the efforts of our paid interns and our staff, we made an animal pasture and pen. Through very generous grant funding from Americana Corner, and the Foundation for Enhancing Communities, we have grant funding for these goats. And so just last December, a few weeks ago, I was at Lappin Springs Farms in Williamsport, picking out our heritage breed animals that are going to join us in March.
Wow.
So we're having black Welsh mountain sheep, and we're having Nigerian dwarf goats, and they're going to be a permanent fixture at CI. They're funded for 5 years. They can be longer there than I am. But that means as you visit now, you'll have the opportunity to help with the animal care chores. You'll learn about where does dairy come from? Where does wool and fiber, textile production come from? And that animal experience is going to make a huge difference. They're arriving in March, and that we do think their arrival is one of the huge reasons our education bookings has spiked this spring and become fully booked.
Sure, yeah.
Especially among younger grades. We'd never had Green Castle Antrim Elementary before. We'd had the entire middle school like 4 times a year. But this spring we have the elementary, because now the elementary schools, they get a tangible history experience, but also they get to pet goats.
Sure. Yep. That's massive. So let me ask you this, Matthew, is what do you see in the future for the Conococheague Institute? Is there a particular station, we'll say, a feature that you would like to see added?
Yeah. So, I mean, the animals was a huge dream that seemed insurmountable 4 years ago. But now that's happened. For other parts of our historical context I think need to be added are things we know that happened on the property. The main farm owner, Mr. Davis, he had a 20 guinea still. So he was distilling whiskey en masse. It was one of the major cash crops of the region. So talking about distilleries would be great, but there's a lot of FDA requirements about distillation. We have an amazing apple orchard. So what I would love to see is a cider mill and a cider press on site. So then we could do live cider making. We do have a volunteer that brews beer, and we knew there was beer brewing on site historically as well, so it'd be great to have a brewing experience. And these amenities of history that also tie in of alcohol, both educational and they're another source of revenue. Because now you and your friends want to book a custom, I want to brew my own beer in the 18th century style, I'll book that as a workshop, and I can do that at CI and take home my home brew that I made myself. Yeah. It's that hands-on tangible experience that people can take away from them that I want to keep imparting.
You could have the bachelor party at you said you have a tavern, if you're able to distill whiskey. I mean, these are all things that, sure, during the day we're bringing the kids in, and I follow the vision that you're sowing there. I don't know why when you were mentioning what you were just talking about, different areas of the property, I thought, well, couldn't you do pumpkins for a pumpkin patch? We
have a very huge field, and in our long-term plans, I would love to see that field be used for something other than kind of car parking and grass. Be it for maybe 3 years from now, we advance from goats and sheep to having cows or horses, or having it as a sunflower field, or having it as a pumpkin patch or a corn maze. Because again, we're a non-profit. We do have to think about what people are interested in, and what people are interested in the TriState.
And how can you weave that in?
Exactly.
And I think that I love where your mind is, Matthew. I'm so glad that the Conococheague Institute is in your hands, and I know you have a team of people around you. But that vision is spot on. That excites me. I want to somehow be part of that. And if you would like to be part of that, it's the Conococheague Institute. Take us through website, contact. How do we book anything? All of that, Matthew.
You don't have to spell it right because the internet will help you. But if you Google Conococheague Institute, we're going to be all over it. Our SEO multipliers are pretty high because of all the awards and all the attention we're getting. But it's www.cimlg.org. Conococheague Institute Museum, Library, Gardens, different amenities we have. On Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube is just kind of at Conococheague Institute. You'll notice in a lot of our literature, and when I talk, I try and abbreviate CI because Conococheague Institute is a long phrase.
Yeah.
But you can also call it 717-328-2800, or what's even better, email visit@cimlg.org. And all these things are on our website and available as literature because, again, with my accent, just saying letters can be difficult. You should hear me when I'm trying to give this dictate. It's like, M for museum.
Right,
L for library.
I love it, yeah. But I do think that your accent probably really adds to the immersion.
It does. Now, it's not authentic at all. My accent is, but historically it's not.
Right.
The settlers in the area are Welsh. My accent is a hodgepodge of everything. But yes, if I'm wearing my 18th century clothes, I'm wearing my cocked hat, my tricorn hat, and people hear me talk, they instantly take note.
Yeah.
And I think that has been one of my personal successes that I can hold over others, is that I have a shtick.
Yeah.
It's why so many people use British people for advertising. I can actively help lower your car insurance if you sign on today.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, if I say something, it becomes more tangible, becomes more believable.
Yeah.
Not that I'm lying. It's whatever I can get to hook you in interest in history. Greencastle Antrim Middle School, I am known as the British guy, Mr. Conococheague, or that guy that made the girl faint. We do a surgical medical presentation there every year. I'm doing it in February this year.
Gotcha.
And we talk about some pretty grisly stuff. And yes, one time a girl fainted.
Understood. I'm with you. Now I want to come in for that.
It's a great program. We actually had that this month as a public presentation. And it's grisly, it's gruesome, it's fun. Pus, boils, enemas, amputations, all the fun stuff.
That's what's going to be on YouTube today when I watch it.
I will send you a link as I leave. It's actually a 3-minute video that I made about 3.5 years ago. And at Colonial Williamsburg, in their apothecary shop, they recommend people to watch it.
Oh, wow.
So that's a high compliment.
Yes, it is. It is. Well, I encourage you to check out the Conococheague Institute. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us on Let's Talk TriState today.
Pleasure. Cheers.
As well for me. All right, we'll be back with more Let's Talk TriState, all powered by Virtus Men's Health in Hagerstown. Telehealth available. Find them online at virtusmenshealth.com.
Let's talk tri-state.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk TriState, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.
I'm Nick Seco from Home Right Windows and Doors, and we're located in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. So we do vinyl replacement windows. We do steel and fiberglass entry doors. We do aluminum storm doors, and we do sliding patio doors, all made by Provia. The windows are a vinyl replacement window, and it could be anything from double hungs to casements to bay and bow windows and everything in between. So when somebody calls in the office and needs an estimate, they get Roxanne on the phone typically, and she would schedule an appointment for me to come out and take some measurements, provide some literature, go through what options we have, and then I would follow up within about 24 to 48 hours with an estimate with all the details of the products as well as the installed price. I find that we're typically much more affordable than the companies that you see advertising on TV or in a lot of other places. If they're spending a lot of advertising dollars, obviously they're passing those costs on to their consumers. You could go to our website at homerightwaynesboro.com, or you could call us at 717-749-4874.
Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk TriState with Tiny and Katie.
Let's talk tri-state.
Welcome back to Let's Talk TriState, all powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice winner in the 2024 Best of the TriState Award. With us today, we have an expert in his field when it comes to roofing. We've got Christopher Black. He is the owner of Mighty Dog Roofing in Waynesboro. Chris, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's awesome to have you today. You guys are in Waynesboro, right?
We are.
And how long have you been in Waynesboro? How long have you been doing roofing? Take us through, your history, and then how you got to where you are.
Sure. I've lived in Waynesboro since 1987.
Okay.
I came
Gotcha.
here. I was in the Army.
Okay.
So the Army brought me here. Tammy kept me here.
I gotcha.
I've been married for 37 years this year.
A good woman will do that. Sometimes a not so good woman will do that too.
No. Good woman. I always tell people, have you met my first wife?
Right.
So, I got into IT for years out of the military and was in IT sales for a lot of years and was looking for something to create a road to retirement. I've traveled 46 out of 52 weeks a year. Was really getting tired of that. And I saw a need in the industry. Roofers are the least trusted of all trades, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy because how do you get up on your roof and see whether they did a good job? How many people are going to climb up there and take a look, right?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that do, shoddy work.
Sure.
And they'll take the down payment. They don't show up and finish the job or whatever. So anyway, it just irritated me. The other thing that got me in this industry was the sales process. A lot of folks have encountered the window salesmen that come and they want to spend 3.5 hours in your house, and you just want to know how much it's going to cost. Why does it take 3.5 hours to go through that process? So,
and they know the moment they walk in the door.
They know exactly how much a window costs, and how much to install it. Same thing with the roof. It's like, why do I have to go through this hard sales pitch every 30 minutes? So we got a deal. And I knew there had to be a better way. And so Mighty Dog was a franchise opportunity. It was, a way for me it was supposed to be a semi-absentee ownership model.
Gotcha.
I've got a great general manager who happens to be my son-in-law, so he has a lot of skin in the game.
Sure. Better at least.
Yeah. He's got my grandsons. Got to take care of those guys. But one of the things I learned in IT sales was that if you can't convince me in 10 minutes that you have a value and that you can add value to the process and to the product, then I kind of, after 10 minutes, I kind of wonder, like, what are we doing?
Shouldn't take that long.
Yeah. And so anyway, that's kind of what we're trying to bring to this business is, good value, good communication with customers, be very open and transparent, be informative. I think a lot of people, when they buy a roof, some people have done some homework and they know a little bit about the industry. Yeah. A lot of people, though, don't really understand what makes a great roof and a roof system. Same thing with gutters, doors, windows. And so we have a pitch, if you will, that's 10 minutes. It takes you from your trusses all the way out to the shingle, and in 10 minutes you can see how a proper roof should be installed. And whether you go with me or not, at least the next guy coming in, you're a little bit smarter about how a roof should be done.
So it's interesting to me. You are in IT.
Yeah.
Now, what's funny is this really speaks to kind of the way that I am. Okay, so I have worked in communications all my life. I worked in education and then came to work at Verstanding Media. Been in radio for a better part of 25 years. Right now, since I've owned a home with my wife for 7 years, I have really taken to like the handyman thing. To the point now where I'm building cabinets and, climbing up in the attic and running electricity and adding lights and all these different things.
All to code, of course.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. I'll show you my permits. They're stacked up here somewhere. But that if I were I was just thinking about this the other day, coincidentally. If something were to happen where I were no longer here, I could see myself really enjoying getting into something construction driven. Whether it's probably finish work. I really enjoy the finish work and the details at the end and making everything, painting nice and pretty. But what's interesting is you're in IT and I do some of that here, and you moved to roofing. Was there did you have an itch to scratch? Were you always handy? Were you always working around the house? How'd that go?
Here's the thing about that transition. Our sales model, we were I don't know if you're an IT guy, sort of, right? So Cisco Systems Network, right? Yep. We were the world's largest reseller of Cisco. Okay. $6 billion a year we sold Cisco gear. We didn't make the Cisco gear. We didn't get up in the racks a lot of times and install it, right? Our job was to inform customers on what of that Cisco stack should you be buying.
Gotcha. Okay.
What's the most appropriate fit? And if you think about this model, it's very similar, right? My job is to help a homeowner make the most well-informed decision. I coined a phrase in IT about 25 years ago. Some guys at the company still say it. First to educate wins. If you're an informed consumer and the next guy comes in, we had a lady ask for 7 quotes. She told us up front, I'm getting 7 quotes. I said, absolutely fine. Do your research. Teacher, right?
Yeah.
Wanted to be well informed. Sure. We came, we did the inspection. We said, hey, I don't know if you noticed it. We got some shingles off in the back, and there's some flashing that's broke off by the one dormer. She said, you're the 6th person here and the first guy to ever notice that. How was she getting quotes for a roof job and not somebody noticing?
The glaringly obvious. Yeah. Okay.
Crawl in the attic. You see the wet spots up in the attic on the decking. You see the ventilation's bad. We had one woman who, God love her, she had a mold problem in her house, And technically, they only have to remediate what's in the house. So below that truss line
Right.
in the room, right? So her attic's full of mold, and it gets into ventilation. It gets, So during the remediation process, the mold remediation people said, we can do all of the cleaning and remediate the mold, but we can't take care of the decking and the roof.
Right.
And so her insurance company had given her an allotment for 2 sheets of plywood to replace. She needed 60
I'm sure. Yeah.
to get rid of all that mold. So we have a supplemental insurance company that a team that does that. They're former state farmers and nationwide, and they get on the phone with your insurance company and they say, hey, we have evidence, da 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 da, and we were able to get all that supplemental taken care of for her. So she got that all taken care of in insurance. And it's that kind of assist that we want to provide customers, and it's the same consultative sales model that we would do when we were in IT. I don't care whether you buy Cisco or you buy, their competitor. What I care about is that you're my customer for life. And if I do you right, I'm a happy guy. You're a happy person, right? And the other thing is, homeowners want to go to work and come home and have a new roof.
Amen.
They don't want hassles. They don't want nails in the yard. They don't want, and so that's our biggest focus is and customer experience.
And they are projects that take a lot of trust.
Yeah.
Because to your point, if I don't have any knowledge of how a roof should look, was it a good job? Did they even do it? Did they say they were going to be here and they weren't even here? And I don't even know. That's a lot of trust that you place in someone, whether it's a roof, it's windows, it's doors, it's whatever, because the average person is not going to know.
You're right.
Well, you should need to make sure you caulk this, and this needs to be put some shims in there to make it level, because if you don't, and water will get in wherever it can get in. Water's lazy, so the average person doesn't know this. So when you have finding an honest person, that's why people say about finding an honest mechanic.
Yeah, 100%.
My goodness, I don't know how to fix my engine. But if you tell me you fixed it,
I got to trust you did.
I believe it. But then if I go back and you say, oh, well, it's something different. How can I prove it? I don't know. Right. I don't even know what was wrong the first time.
Right.
So I think it's really nice that you saw a need where the industry didn't have a trusted option in this area. And you provide a trusted option in this area. And we're talking about Waynesboro. And what is your service area, though, from the Waynesboro? Is it Hagerstown as well, Franklin County? How do you work that?
So in Pennsylvania, we go kind of Adams, Franklin, Fulton. In Maryland, we're doing Washington and Frederick counties.
Okay.
And in West Virginia, we'll be doing Berkeley and some of Jefferson.
Because you're coming into Martinsburg now, right?
We are. We're opening up 2025, Mighty Dog Roofing in Martinsburg.
Love that.
I'm really excited about the opportunities there. Charleston all the way up to Berkeley Springs.
Wow.
So really excited about that. And, your point about the trust thing, we're a big Owens Corning partner.
Okay.
I think we're the only platinum preferred partner in the area, which, by the way, warranties are another thing that drives me crazy. People want to sell you a warranty, and they can't. They're not authorized. When I sell you a warranty, it's because I'm a platinum preferred partner, and the guy backing up the warranty is not Chris in a truck. If you have a problem with the warranty, there's a $9 billion company called Owens Corning that's going to come step in and fix the problem.
Wow, okay.
So even if I retire in the next 5 years, you're good.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. But they come and inspect randomly 3 homes a year. They get up on the roof, they walk the roof, they look for nail pops, they look for underlayment. They'll pull up that first layer and see did you put the ice and water on, like you're supposed to. And it's a good accountability measure.
Sure.
And then they do guild surveys behind, unbeknownst to us, they send the homeowner, hey, you got a new roof with Owens Corning shingles. How do you like it? So anyway, I like that accountability. I like that. And then again, most people don't inspect their roof every year.
Right.
They should.
Now,
Now,
like I said, with the mechanic, even if you go up and you see that, by the time you see the results of a water leak, right?
Oh yeah.
How can you go back and prove that it was a shoddy job and not just that had a gust of wind that came in and took one up, and you just can't prove it. And it's a shame to think that people go through that every single day.
Every day. We had an older gentleman, had a roof put on. He called. It was Friday about 4:30 in the afternoon. He said, hey, I've got water coming through my kitchen ceiling. Can you guys come take a look? We redirected somebody from a job, sent them over there at 5 o'clock at night, pouring down rain. Jeremiah gets up on the roof, takes a look, takes some pictures. The roofer had promised to do a new roof, complete tear off. They didn't. They did a roof over, what's called a roof over, when they just put new shingles over old.
Okay.
So all those sins of the past were carried forward.
Sure.
Around his chimney, that thick layer of shingles just created this 1-inch little trough holding water, and it was running right down the chimney. He said that roof was just put on. I said, well, you need to call them and come back because they didn't flash the chimney. He said, okay. So we did an emergency tarp to keep the water out. Next day, he calls me back. He says, hey, they're out of business.
Oh. Wow.
What are we going to do? And it breaks your heart because,
right.
Why would you do that to someone? Mm-hmm. The other thing I see are common mistakes that guys make that maybe they don't even know better, but you'll go by a house and you'll see the shingle bundles up on the peak, and they're bent over the peak, right? They'll leave them like that sometimes for a day, and then they'll put the shingles on. And if you nail a shingle that's buckled like that, you get this,
sure,
right? Well, people will come back and say, oh, when it warms up, that'll smooth out. Well, if I take this piece of paper and I fasten it, now try and smooth that out.
Exactly.
Right? It's not going to move. And so you end up with this brand new roof that's got all these waves in it.
Just waiting for water to get in.
The wind is going to tear it off, or the water's going to penetrate. So those are the reasons why I thought, you know what, it's time that we tell homeowners up front, this is what you should expect from a good roof system.
Sure.
Right? Whether you go with me or not, go out and watch the guy putting your roof on. Did they put the ice and water where they're supposed to? Did they put the ice and water in the valleys like they're supposed to? Did they put synthetic on? Did they do all of those things?
Right.
Ventilation's critical. We run into a lot of homes that don't have really adequate ventilation. The homeowners, they don't know.
Right.
Again, I don't know.
Because I don't go up there. I don't unless you have an attic. I'm not going up there.
We had one customer, they had an HVAC problem. The HVAC unit was in the attic. It was the HVAC guy that said, hey, you got a problem here with your roof.
Wow. Yeah.
And the guy goes, well, if I wouldn't have had a problem with the HVAC, I would have never.
Exactly.
So inspecting your roof once a year is a good idea. I'm not suggesting everybody get up on the roof and climb around up there, but we don't mind doing free inspections. We have a lot of insurance companies now are sending letters saying if you don't get a new roof by such and such a date, we're going to cancel your homeowner's insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty frustrating for a homeowner. Who budgeted that all of a sudden? So we've been able to, some insurance companies, not all, but some, will allow a contractor to come in that's certified, take a look and do an inspection and say, good, there's a good 5 years left on the roof.
Right, yeah.
You don't have any water problems. There's plenty of aggregate on top of the shingle. You don't have any problem with granular loss or anything. So,
Is that a service you would provide if someone says, hey, I need somebody to come take a look. My insurance company's telling me I have to get this done next month.
Yeah, we do it all the time.
Very good.
Unfortunately, some insurance companies are not willing to bend.
Yeah.
We had one person said, I have to have it done by January the 8th. I was like, dude, this is not a good time to put on a new roof.
Exactly, yeah.
And he's like, I have no choice.
Yeah, and you would think that the insurance company would know that.
They don't care.
Yeah.
Honestly. Somebody in Indiana thinks Pennsylvania's 75 degrees.
Right. And right around this time of year, we wish we were. But we certainly aren't.
But it's a good week this week in the 40s. You're getting all the melt. We're getting a lot of people calling about gutters being pulled off and, their downspouts getting broke off. And so we're happy to go out and take care of those problems as well.
Well, and the worst part of it is we get all that precipitation and then we get that super cold. It just freezes and refreezes and starts to melt and freezes again and just starts to pull down on everything.
It's a lot of weight.
Whereas a typical snow, we get it and a couple days later just melts off and we're over it.
This was cold this year. It's been around forever, man.
Yeah, I think we're paid up for cold. We're paid up for snow.
Yeah. I don't know what February's holding for us, but I'm excited about the 40s this week.
I love early spring. I'll take it any chance I get.
Every day.
Mighty Dog Roofing in Waynesboro. Chris, how do people get a hold of you?
It's real easy. MightyDogRoofing.com. Okay. You can go there and select, your zip code, or you can go to MightyDogRoofing.com/Waynesboro-PA. 717-997-4707 is the phone number.
Okay.
So lots of ways to get a hold of us. Always eager to speak to people. We do have a call center. It's open 24 hours a day. Don't mistake that for us not being local.
Right.
It's just a service that we want to provide because, let's face it, you get home, you and the wife are sitting around having dinner. Hey, let's talk about this new siding project. Yeah, it's 8 o'clock. Everybody's closed.
Right.
You can still call, schedule an appointment. We're happy to come out, and get something scheduled with you to come out and talk to you. So that 24/7 call center is there for a reason, to make us accessible. And again, it's MightyDogRoofing.com. It's pretty easy to find.
Yes, sir.
So,
all right, Chris. Well, hey, thanks for joining us on Let's Talk Tri-State today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll have you back.
I look forward to it.
All right. When it's a lot warmer,
I hope
we'll have
so.
you back. All right. We're going to have more Let's Talk Tri-State coming your way in just a few moments, powered by WellSpan, winner of the American Hospital Association's Quest for Quality Award. Online, wellspan.org.
Let's talk Tri-State.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.